Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen, where for the first time ever in EV podcast history, half of the people on the show are Tesla owners. We have never reached this point in EV history.
And, ladies and gentlemen, when last week, first of all, got rid of Nick. You're welcome. I read the comments. You're welcome. Last week when we had a bunch of whiners on the show saying like, well, gas people have feelings too. We care about our thoughts. Well, let me tell you, I'm here to override all those thoughts again. Welcome back to the main show. This is actually quite the episode for Nick to miss. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited. What a week in Tesla.
Woo! Q2 earnings was huge. I think this was one of the biggest earning calls they've ever had because there was so much writing on profitability. I was right, by the way. Just wanted to shove that in your face. And
I'm so glad I'm wrong.
Of the largest. Yeah. What's funny is you, the shareholder, didn't expect them to be profitable, and I, the non-shareholder, was expecting them to be profitable.
Are you not a shareholder at all?
Well, if they go into the S&P 500, I might technically be, but we have done investments, but Tesla's not one of them yet.
So you're not a voting member, I should say.
I'm not a voting member. I am not a single stockholder of Tesla. I have lots of index funds. We're very new at this. We've basically only just gotten into it a couple months ago.
Index is a good way to start.
And we've mainly been investing in basic mutual funds. We didn't jump right in with Tesla because that's a big one, but we want to get there eventually. But still,
we might get there regardless now.
Yeah. It never feels like there's a good time to buy because it's just been...
I know.
All time. I know. Timing in the market. That matters more. I just thought it was funny that you were expecting they would not post a profit. So
I'm so happy.
What did you think?
Were
you surprised?
Okay, so leading up to it, no, because when we talked about it more and more over the last month, I was like,
did I persuade you?
You did. Well, I was like, Drew's right. And I was reading everything as well, and I'm like, Drew's right, and I'm wrong. I'm never going to say that again.
This was the one time.
This is the one time.
Never again.
Yeah, well, but it's one of those things where like, I'm so glad I'm wrong. As an investor and as a fan, it's so cool to see just
a full year
of
profitability.
I get to tell all my friends for a full year. They were like, well, it's a gimmick. I have friends who have for lack of a better term, they were born into a very wealthy family. I have very specific, and if he's watching this show, you know who you are. And he told me this time last year, when I picked up my car and all this stuff, and he's in my car, he goes, I don't know, man. My father says that this is just a fad and it's going to die. This is why he's not an investor, and he knows Warren Buffett personally. I'm being a little facetious. I'm embellishing here, but the point is they're all this wealth of knowledge of like, well, let me tell you how EVs aren't going to work, and here we are 1 year later, S&P 500. I am like, it's so
they're huge.
Even if they weren't profitable, it was very possible they were going to make an exception and put them in it anyway, because
I read a few of those articles.
I'm so happy. And even just outside of that, we finally have a confirmed location for the factory.
Thank God. GigaTexas.
GigaTexas.
We totally knew it the whole time, but it was happy. It was cool because they dropped their filings before the call, and I was reading through the filings, and it was like, we have selected the new U.S. factory, but they weren't saying what it was, and I was like, come on, what is it? Like, why would you select it and not tell anyone? And thankfully, they did actually. They did the pause for effect. Wanted to release it on the call themselves. We're happy to announce GigaTexas is real. And I thought it was cool that they gave a shout out to Tulsa. They were like, we're glad we got to meet up with Tulsa. We're happy for all that they offered. We might do something with you guys in the future, but nothing set in stone yet. So I think that'd be cool. Both factories would be ideal. But I think all of us were getting in the department of, okay, Cybertruck, you got to pick a factory pretty close here soon if you want to be on time or on schedule. And I think this doesn't confirm the Cybertruck will be on time, but it definitely helps. It does help. Makes it more possible. If they would have not announced it the likelihood, the chances of the Cybertruck being on time would have been slimmer and slimmer. But I was really pumped to hear Elon say that construction had already started last weekend. So hearing that was like, come on, Tesla, you can do it. You can pull him in.
You know what's interesting is that everybody, Texas is trying to be a workhorse about moving things forward, and I think we all, like you said, I think we all knew about Austin being, well, so all the writing was on the wall, and Elon was dropping enough crumbs for us to follow the trail. But
like when he tweeted GIGATEXAS,
so, there was like a hint there or something.
I think there was a coded message.
Maybe if you move the words around enough times, I think you might actually form the words GIGATEXAS.
GIGATEXAS.
And
Easter egg.
What blew my mind, which is kind of cool, is it's not just going to be Cybertruck.
No, it's this was the first time. I mean, he alluded in a few tweets that they wanted to do Model Y for the East Coast at this factory along with the Cybertruck. But at this earnings call was the first time they said they wanted to do Model 3 there as well. And I'm also saying Tesla Semi, which is exciting to hear. That's finally coming out, which I'm rooting so hard for the Semi right now. I want that thing on the road, mainly because of Nikola. Nikola's just kind of fueling my rage that I'm just like, get to...
Did you retweet that? Or somebody else on Twitter said, like, you took everything from me, and then Elon, I don't even know who you are.
Just Elon looking at Trevor.
Yeah,
I don't
just
even
to
know
say
who
really
you
quickly,
are.
I think it was, and I didn't realize until afterwards. I joined the Taylor Swift EV channel stream for the earnings call on the back end.
Yeah,
because I was on it. Like, first I was like doing my work, and then I had it in the background, and then it's like, okay, I'm finished up work, so I went on YouTube really quickly while the earnings call was playing, and I saw you, right there. It's like, ooh, and so then I jump on it. I just, on a side tangent, whatever, I like that you did that, and I would like for you to continue doing that. It was cool that seeing everybody discussing.
A lot of people have done it, yeah.
I want to do it with you. I mean, just so we talk about it.
Tesla YouTubers I watch stream the earnings call because it's kind of hard to find the actual original source and having to explain to people, well, you go here, and then you hit listen to webcast, and then you got to fill in. So it's just and it is public. So Tesla doesn't care that you're streaming the call because it's literally a public. That's what it's for, is for the public to listen in on and hear the info about. So it just saves a step for a lot of people to stream the call. I did a Twitter poll just asking if people would want that, and it was overwhelming. Yes, everyone was like, yes, that would be great. Please do that. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Sure. It gives me watch time, and I don't really have to do anything. I'm going to be listening to the call anyway. So yeah, just kind of filling people in on, because those earnings call, especially with Tesla, are really, really fun because they drop a lot of important info there, and giving people easier access to those calls is great.
All those, and it's just cool to gauge the audience's thoughts and reactions in live time with you and with everybody. I like that. I was cool that we did that. So do it again. I don't care what anybody. I'm telling you, do it again.
I think Q2 was probably going to be the most interesting one of this year.
Well, that's because we had so much
what's going to happen, with the factory closed for so long.
Post-COVID lockdown, like, what is happening? Yeah.
Right. So there was a whole bunch of mysteries going on. I don't think anyone's doubting profitability now for the rest of the year, or probably for the rest of Tesla's existence at this point. Unless cases get really bad and they have to lock down again. Even then, though, Giga Shanghai is ramping so fast now. I don't... That's a good question. Do you think there will be another quarterly loss, or do you think it's profitability here on out?
Let me tell you why it's going to be profitability here on out.
Okay. Well, I know why, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm answering your question. I think it's going to be profitability here on out because Tesla, rightfully so, smartly so, as a business, went outside the U.S. As a U.S. company, is outside the U.S. with production.
China, especially. Oh my God, how smart that was. Most companies have to manufacture in China to stay in business.
And so
Tesla didn't even reach China until last year.
Elon goes on. He's like, okay, China, if you want, we can do this, or maybe not. I don't need you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, please. And China being like, China's going to keep them. China's the reason why. I think if you take everything out,
There's so many people there. It's a
China's
going to
keep them afloat. Yeah, China's going to keep them afloat.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're even going outside of China, so you got Berlin, you have.
Berlin's moving so fast.
I know.
I'm watching the update photos of that factory. Like they're already putting some of the roof sections on now, and it's starting to look like a real building. And it's still I've been watching those things. By the way, shout out. Can we get some people covering the Giga Austin location? Can we get some people with drones out there showing us where the factory is? And there's been immense coverage of when they started building Shanghai and when they started building Berlin. Guys were just filming drone shots of the forest with nothing being there. Just like, here's where it'll be. We need that for Texas. But I've been watching those guys for so long just cover the location and just watch dirt for months. I've just been watching big field of dirt, bulldozer pushing dirt more next day. Okay, now they pushed dirt over here. Yeah, now they've flattened it again, and now to finally get these big concrete pillars going up in an actual structure.
I felt the same way when I was watching Apple Park get built.
yeah, it's kind of like that.
I think, I will say on a personal scale that it's making it harder and harder for me not to want to go to Texas to reside there. I'm thinking about to live. Just cost of living overall. Here's the thing, though. Aside, just quick non-EV related, just because this is also a non-EV moment in the EV show. Property tax is the highest in Texas. Property tax is the highest in Texas out of all the locations I've listed. California is the lowest. So we have the highest.
Isn't that weird?
It's weird. Well, we have the highest state taxes, but we supplement that.
That's what I mean, though. Like my parents are recently moving out of California, and they love talking about how terrible California is when it comes to income tax and that kind of thing, and all these taxes. But what you find out once you leave the state is the state gets their money out of you in other ways.
Regardless, yeah.
They have
and
some
Texas
other tax in
has the highest property tax, and as a homeowner, I'm like, ugh. My wife and I kind of we just like maybe the Pacific Northwest,
However, the property there is super cheap. At the same time.
True. But the thing is, unlike California, just because we're on the subject, why not? Unlike California, like we're locked in. California passed that at Prop 8, I think, where we, this is the number we're at. Where Texas, it can rise, and it probably will rise, especially more Joe Rogans are going to go to Texas. You're going to bring people. And I'm like, wait for me, Joe, I'm coming. But for me, it's not because how crazy packed California is, which at least on our side is you, Mr. Rural America. You're like, no, this is great, but just the fact that
best of both.
but the fact that Tesla, Apple, and so much more, Silicon Hills or whatever they want to call it.
It basically is like the next Silicon Valley.
And I'm so excited about it though, because there's so much potential, and geographically, as we've said before, dead center of the country. All things considering, so you could produce things and send them out pretty equally from there.
Equally,
and I have a lot of friends that are there. All this to say that, like, if I go there soon-ish, I'll get the drone footage for you.
Thank you, Randy. We need it.
Hey, if I could get Cybertruck footage for you, I won't let you down yet, buddy.
Okay, good. You could be our dedicated.
I'm your dedicated
Randy out on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be the dedicated. That's right. Oh, wait. That's right, Drew. We're out here on the, and I'll be your.
We're out here at GigaTexas.
GigaTexas. I'm gonna chase
or Terra Texas.
Ooh. I'm gonna chase tornadoes
it's that
like
big.
that, but instead of being a tornado chaser, I'm a Tesla chaser, and I'm gonna go wherever they go, cover it, report back, and call that a job.
Yeah. We need some coverage of that because I want to see the before pictures. Basically, that's where we're in right now. But you had to have known I was going to ask this because we've talked about it many times. But how do you feel about initial first Cybertruck deliveries now that location has been selected and construction has technically begun?
Honestly, I still think it's going to get pushed.
Okay. You're not budging. I'm not budging either. I'll raise you that prediction and say I'm still betting on. Here, I'll raise you one and say that the dual motors will happen first.
Ooh, not the Tri. Ooh, hang on.
You know how they do it in batches?
Yes.
You know how like the first Model Ys, like every single Model Y was blue with the 20-inch wheels? Like that's their first batch. I think that's what they're going to do first. It's going to be one of those people that are like, where's my tri-motor? And they're like, hold on, we'll let you know when it's ready. But the dual motors will be everywhere.
So you don't think they're going to address the cheapest one first because they can't? I know you. We'll talk about what you said in a moment.
Yeah, we'll come back to the cheapest Cybertruck.
We'll come back to the cheapest one because that's a very... Anyway, yeah, we'll come back to that. So you don't think they're going to address the cheapest one first, and you don't think they're going to push the most expensive because the demand's not there. You think the happy medium and the bulk...
No, not because of demand. I think because of supply. I think the dual motor is the prototype. The one you saw is a dual motor. And I imagine the dual motor likely, I've seen some predictions online, but the dual motor likely requires a somewhat reasonable sized battery pack that they already are building right now.
Okay.
And the tri-motor is in plaid territory, basically, as in Tesla is just now working on these plaid powertrains that they're going to first roll out with the Model S and X, and then, make their way in. But it's a different manufacturing technique. The dual motor Cybertruck won't require a new manufacturing technique. It'll likely require a lot of the same battery pack technology, not the same cells. We're talking next gen cells. But when it comes to the size of the pack and the motors that go into it, it's going to be the easiest to build and charge a reasonable price for, because all that has to do is beat 300 miles. Tesla can easily beat 300 miles. They've done it a million times now. Beating the 500-mile mark is kind of a new... Well, I mean, it's not impossible, but I think making a 500-mile Tesla that's 70K is kind of a new challenge for them. And I think likewise, as we've seen them bump into issues with making cheap cars, I think that hitting 300 miles with a $50,000 Cybertruck is going to be somewhat easy to do, and that's going to be their first batch. Tri-motor will definitely be next, but I think that the people who reserve dual will be getting theirs first, especially if they live in the Austin area.
All right. That's very fair. So here's what I will say to that.
You could increase your delivery day if you move there.
Here's what I'll say. I will say because of the lack of color aesthetics and external customization, it makes sense that the whole blue Model Y fiasco thing, that's not going to be a thing here. I hear you about the tri-motor being more plaid territory. I feel that we'll be well within plaid realm with Model S well before we actually, have wheels on the ground for Cybertruck, and I think we'll be good there if that's going to be our only dedicated factory. But I will agree with you. It's the smartest move to do the dual motor first. I feel your enthusiasts with the tri-motor, they're there and they're fine waiting, and the cheapest one is going to have issues regardless. So
I think they're going to get screwed.
I think poor guys. And on a personal level, I want to pick up our Cybertruck as late as possible because I don't want to pay the money.
Yeah. You
so on
want
a
to give
personal
yourself
level,
some time.
I want as much time as possible because people. You experience this, so you'll understand. People have this mindset where I'm going to save up and I'm going to put as much down as possible. I'm going to pay it outright. And you save, and you get to that point when you can do it. And then you go, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then you start to really second guess, like, am I really willing to just let this all go right here, right now for this product?
Right. It's a big choice.
I have that feeling now. I had it the moment it happened just because it's like, that's a lot of money. And
especially when you look at your annual income and that kind of thing.
For sure, absolutely. So on a personal level, I want the tri-motor to get pushed. Don't tell my wife. But it also makes sense. It honestly, it makes sense to well, the way I see it, the dual motor is the happy medium, and they don't want to push out the single motor. I think they're going to get screwed. Like you think that's going to happen? I think that's going to happen. I think there's too many. You brought up. I like that video. It's a very good thought process about what's going to happen with that. Just because you know Model Y, we're kind of seeing it with Model Y. We kind of saw it happen with Model 3 in the sense that's
I never got to talk to you about that. The standard range was canceled. You weren't here last week, so
standard range.
How did you
Model
feel
3?
about that? Model Y, sorry.
Yeah.
Model Y. Elon confirmed it's not happening. At least, I think he's lying. I think it's coming eventually, but it's not soon, is what he means. It's going to end up being like the standard range 3, and it might come out at a time when battery chemistry allows them to have. Nick and I talked about it a lot. He basically said that it's not 250 miles, so that's not good enough. He thinks that's a BS excuse, in that they're making that up because financially it doesn't make sense for them to release a Model Y that cheap right now, and that they will release one if it makes financial sense. I don't know what your thoughts on the subject are, but do you agree with Nick?
Ooh.
Does that ever happen?
Let me cover the camera so no one can see my facial reaction.
Oh, okay. Audio listeners are like,
let me cover the mic so no one can see what's going on.
Yeah.
I think.
Sorry, I can't make changes to your contacts.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Siri.
She's just letting you know. By the way,
thank you, Siri. Okay, you could have said that last in the tech episode. So I think Tesla has this interesting little dance that they have to do about being profitable, so we can have good earnings call, and making things as affordable as possible, so that way most people can get their hands on it. And I think at some point, and I don't think it's one or the other, but for the sake of making my point, I'll make it one or the other. You either have to be a luxury item or you have to be a mass-produced item, in the sense that how many people do you want driving your cars, as opposed to how well of the quality do you want it to be. And when it comes to the quality, for example, like you'll see more Model 3s and Ys than you will X's and S's when everything's at its maturity state, because it'll have everything that you need it to have on the cheaper end and still be cheaper, so more people.
Way cheaper.
A $30,000 Model 3 was the promise. And
35,
35. We want to make it cheaper, and that was his thing. And that's very ambitious, because that's saying that he's saying, this should be a car that is no different than a gas car, that you can go to a dealership or whatever and get your car at a reasonable brand new price for something that could be like a Honda Civic or a Corolla or whatever. And I respect that. But you come into the point where you're crossing your boundaries, this ever ebb and flow of tech company, vehicle company. And now when we go into the tech side of things, you do not actually, the way I see it at least, as a spectator who has no knowledge of how the engineering happens, you cross the territory where a lot of this, the computer is not cheap. The battery's not cheap. The parts are cheap for the computer, but what I'm saying is that implementing it all into a single in-house infrastructure of sorts, it requires a lot of ingenuity that's happening. And I don't think you can make the type of profits you should make giving all these features to a lower end model. And it goes against
like a 41K Model Y wouldn't work.
Well, I don't know. I feel like if I was in charge of pricing, I would address everything so much more differently. And we did talk about this before, about taking out certain hardware things. And your counter, and I do agree with your counter. Your counter is that like it's a piece of plastic is like 10 cents to put into the little tweeters or stuff. I get where you're getting at with that too, but I would approach pricing differently, in the sense of when you're building out your vehicle online, and certain things that you don't want, you could take them out hardware wise, and maybe every penny can count and add up that way. Elon wants everything to be across the board unified, and I like that vision. But when you do that, it devalues the higher end vehicles, because now a $90,000 Model S has the same tech as the 30 or 25 or whatever he wants his end goal price of a Model 3 to be, and they have the same tech. It's just how quick you want to speed up on 0 to 60 or what, and other little things like that.
Yeah.
I can see how it devalues that, and it makes sense to cut the price of a Model Y where it's like it's eating into the cost. There's too much overlap. I want there to be the cheapest as possible. As a consumer, as a fan, like make it as cheap as possible. I want more people to experience what I experience. It is so it's so addicting. And I sold because I wasn't on last week. I had somebody out of town here. Long story short, somebody who could not care any less about Tesla sat in my Model 3, and he walked away with a reservation code, a number.
Really?
I sold him. He looked at
Wow.
me. He's some guy from West Virginia, doesn't care about tech, and we even punched in on West Virginia, zoomed in, and like, look, here's the networks, and it's ever growing, and if it's not supercharging, here's the other charging. I was showing him everything, and 30 minutes in my car, and he's like, this is the future. And that engagement is exactly why I believe the vision of Tesla as a whole and the future of where it's going, and EVs being the replacement, and everything that makes sense about why you should do electric over gas. But even though I want as much people in there, I want Tesla to be profitable and keep making money for me as an investor.
Right.
And I want them. And I want them. They're not a charity. If you want charity, if you want them to not make money, whatever. SpaceX and everything else that they have their contributions elsewhere, but for a product and me being a buyer and me being an investor, like I want them to be profitable. And I'm conflicted. And I'm conflicted because one thing I haven't even told you, I haven't said on podcast at least, and I haven't told you until this very moment. My wife, after we saw the Model Y in person, she goes, which I finally saw one in the wild. So
hey,
I finally saw one.
I saw two a couple days ago.
Yeah,
on one drive in my own. I've never seen him in my own town before. And
I have yet to see him in my own town.
I saw a white one and a red one, which the red one was a first I'd never seen, but they're all over the place.
My wife.
Anyway, what did your wife say?
She saw it and she goes, "I want this, the Model Y." And I go, I think you just want a Tesla. I don't think you care what it is anymore. I think you just want a Tesla. And she goes, no, look at it. It's hatchback, which is better. It's higher ceiling. And I'm like,
Model 3 Pro Max. Yeah.
And I go, and it's more expensive too. And she goes,
yeah, it is more expensive.
I was like, do you want?
It did just get cheaper though. I gotta say that was unexpected.
But her reasoning. It's not the same as what the reasoning would be for the Cybertruck. She wants the tri-motor because practicality over everything else. She goes, this just makes more sense for the tri-motor to use it what you would want to use it for. Those rules aren't the same for a sedan. And for the sedan, she wants the cheapest as possible. That's because she just likes how it drives. She doesn't care about full self-driving. She likes autopilot, but she goes, I don't want full self-driving. And so
I will say, Randy, you have not been a great advocate to buy the FSD package on this podcast.
Well,
I mean, your experience and others as well has made me feel like it's not as big as a priority as I used to treat it.
I will be an investor, but I will not be a liar.
Well,
I will promote.
I'm very excited for the subscription model. I want to hear how they do that because to me that would impact whether or not I would buy it outright. Because frankly, if they end up doing it month to month, as in there's no year-long commitment, and you can just pay for it for 30 days and then be done.
Yeah.
And it's under $300, I would much rather just buy that 1 or 2 months out of the year and never pay for it outright than I would. Because you'd have to do the math in your head to see if it financially would make sense. Like how many months would I have to subscribe to this to the point that I could have owned it outright? And Tesla they might come at it from the angle of no, you want to buy it because robotaxi, because you'll be able to make your money back and opt it into the fleet.
It's just
and
right around the corner.
Yeah. And the subscription model will throw you off. You'll have a much harder time turning a profit with the subscription. But I might be in the boat of, I don't want a robotaxi. I just want it for road trips occasionally and to make a video on once or twice a year. And if that's the case, I could save so much money if I just subscribe to it occasionally.
I can make my money back.
Paying for it outright.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, if you pay for it twice a year, then it would take you 40 years to break even. It's like I don't know if the car is going to make it that long. So, yeah, it depends how they do that. You know, if they decide that FSD subscription is a year-long commitment and it's $500 a month or something, like, I'd be like, okay, I won't do that. You know, I won't do that. But you're right. Anyway, talking about profitability.
Hold on, before you go to profit, I just want to say is that if they get out of beta, if they get out of this beta state for full self-driving, I think I would have a different approach. But buying into a promise and me saying, all right, let's see where this goes. I can sometimes be a betting man, and I don't mind betting almost $10,000. I mean, listen, I'll see it through. Why not? That's the risk factor I'm willing to make. And some people don't have. Some people, like my wife, are like, I don't want to make that type of commitment. I respect that.
Right.
In its current state, it is not worth what it is. You buy it in the promise of what it will be tomorrow, and tomorrow.
And I haven't met anyone who has said it's worth it in its current state.
It's absolutely not. And I will. And that's the part. Is like I'm not going to be an advocate for it if there are gripes about it, and if they fix these issues on how they're going to roll it out, like we've talked about in the past, how they're going to push out these updates and stuff like that. Maybe I have a different opinion. I'm not a fan of anything subscription model if I can buy something outright. But with that being said, if it's still beta and it's a subscription, I would have never paid for it outright. Because
you would have just paid for the month occasionally, just for here and there use, or
I find more pleasure using autopilot than I do full self-driving.
That's what everyone said. I mean, Andy Sly said the same thing in his Model Y video. He talked about, like, you know, FSD is nice, but I think the biggest feature everyone likes is autopilot, and you get that, and you will still experience all the benefits of that, whether you buy FSD or not. So
absolutely,
like,
I agree.
You can change lanes a little here and there, and that's about it. You know,
I just don't want to constantly be either riding the car in front of me or whatever, dealing with the brake, stop and go. That's all it is for highway traffic congestion. Is I just don't want to deal with it. I just want to less as possible, keep my eyes on the road, but not get eye fatigued and kind of like look around a little bit and just, you know, have a little bit more of a relaxing environment. That's the only time full self-driving for me is ever worth it. But even then, in its current state, it's like it thinks because there's traffic and I have it set to go 70 or 75 miles per hour, and now we're doing 50 because of traffic, or we're doing 30. It wants to change a lane. It wants to change a lane just to change back. To change to a different lane? Yeah. Because it's like my computer's
showing off.
That's one way of calling it. I would say it's getting stir crazy. And I'm like,
look at me. I can change. Look at me. I can change lane.
And now you're eating up more battery because you're taking more resource, because it doesn't, in full self-driving, it doesn't care about preserving battery. It just cares about maintaining speed. And it's like, it's kind of annoying. Right. Honestly, the summoning feature is completely gimmicky, and all intents and purposes, you know, lack of a better word, it's crap, but it's still cool. It's just like, hey, look what I could do if I can see it.
Yeah, I think we touched on this the last time Nick was on, so long ago. Man,
bye, Nick. Who's
days.
That? Who that?
I think we touched on the fact that there has to be this sort of tipping point where Tesla, like they said they were going to do, they're going to keep increasing the price of FSD. And I think we've already kind of reached it. It's reaching a price point now where people are going to be like, you got to prove to us that full self-driving is here or we're not buying it. You know, in its current state, its current features, like I imagine the sales of FSD were probably a lot better back when it was 6K and 7K. And it's likely just been on the decline just people being like, 8,000 really for this? You know,
And then
I don't
us
see.
as the early adopters are reporting back saying, guys, it's not worth it.
That's what's happening. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, when I bought it, it wasn't too much, but now it's getting pretty insanely high. And when it comes to the day-to-day difference, we're having a harder time recommending it. So essentially, I think we both agree our opinions on it will change if the performance of it changes. So I'm really excited for the autopilot rewrite Elon keeps alluding to, and he's apparently using it on his car, and he says it's working amazingly. So, you know, if we can start actually seeing that's what I said in the chat on our earnings call stream. I was like, they should show us this. They need to do some dirty Tesla style videos with a GoPro in the car
Guerrilla
and
warfare.
be like, here's our alpha.
Yeah, get out there and just
Look.
film it on your phone.
Here's
or
our
something.
alpha version of the software. Here's how it's handling turns. Here's how it's handling this.
Yeah.
And I know they could edit it to make it look better than it is, but still, just give people something. Give people a taste of like, oh, wow, it was able to handle that line and that turn, and show people that it's possible. Because it sounds like when I talked about anytime I hear Tesla or their head of AI or their robotaxi experts talking about how machine learning works and Doja and everything, learning the lines and collecting data, every time I hear that, I'm like, okay, yeah, this sounds like it come out tomorrow. This is ready. You know, they're just waiting on the regulators. But then when you see videos of
or
it,
you said it,
Yeah.
whatever you said, like, man, they find a way to get me excited again.
yeah. every time I see Tesla driver or you talk about FSD, I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to happen in the next 10 years. This is impossible. How could it be right around the corner when it can't even stop for a dummy in the street and it's
For a
still
long
running
period
into
of
people?
time, next weekend, I'll let you demo it and you'll see for yourself.
Thank you. I'm excited because I have not. It sounds so weird. I've never seen your car in person.
Well, you've seen it. You just never.
Well, I feel like I know your car already just from all the videos we've watched of it. But like the last time you and I met in person, you were not a Tesla owner.
And now I
you were
am
renting.
I was renting from other people. Now I'm a seasoned veteran Tesla owner who has
now you're
the same
a over-year-old Tesla owner. Yeah, I'm excited to see
Tesla content creator. Like, a lot's changed, and it goes to show how quickly things change, though, just in the realm of Tesla as a whole. Which is why I'm still optimistic. And I'll complain and I'll vent and all that stuff about full self driving, but I'm still very much optimistic. I want to be the devil's advocate in the conversation. It's like, I just want to bring some reality to the situation, but say that I am still very much inspired, hopeful, and optimistic that full self-driving is going to be completely revolutionary when it gets all the proper permissions to do all the things that it's promised, and it will get better over time. It's not even full self-driving in the sense of full self-driving, the real full self-driving. It's not even 5 years old.
No. I mean,
3 years?
The day Tesla announced that all of their vehicles had the hardware for full self-driving was end of 2016.
Okay, there you go. So it's not even half a
We've
decade.
almost hit 4 years.
Right. So look at all this progression we've made just from that. I am so, and just like, and this is where the tech starts to show. And less car company, more tech, it compounds on itself, and it's gonna just blow up. And I know that's gonna happen. I believe that's gonna happen. I'm just stir crazy, and I'm just saying today.
What you are is honest. I think that any honest human being mainly has a healthy amount of skepticism with a healthy amount of optimism towards a new product or software service, because we're both in that boat. We both have our doubts. There's a sliver of me that thinks it'll never happen, and there's a big part of me that says, it's probably gonna. It seems like it's far away, and then one day we might wake up and be like, "Holy crap, it's here!" I didn't think it was actually this close, But I think the skepticism and the optimism mixture comes from the fact that we both agree it can get a lot better, but we see a ton of room between level 5 and better than today. We see a huge range of spectrum of like, there's a long way it can go.
Can we
but
just
acting
get to
like
here?
I
like what you said. Give me something. Show me something. Make me feel, like I believe in magic again or something, like just Show me it. Give me the. Just give me good promo. And I know you don't do marketing and all that stuff, and I get that. Cool. We're the marketers. Fine, that's cool. But
they don't have to pay to advertise it. Just upload it to their channel just to showcase, like, hey guys, it's working.
Tease a little. Hey, look at this. When we saw that guy just hands on his laps, driving, parallel parking, turning, I was like, ah, you know?
Yeah, it was the coolest thing ever to watch. I mean, from what I've heard, that is a pre-mapped route, so they're kind of cheating a little bit with that video. But I mean, it gives people the idea. This is what we're working towards. You know, this is
every
this is
magic trick you see has an illusion involved, and I still want to feel mystical about it. And just give me something. Just don't get it. You know, confused. Like, don't lie to me. Don't make empty promises. Don't lie to me. Don't misdirect. Just give me something, even if you have to embellish the execution. In the perfect, hey, you know, the 500-mile plus battery in the perfect condition, doing less than 60 miles per hour on day 0. Like, just even if you have to embellish a little bit, don't lie to me, but just give me something that's just, you know, spark, you know, morale booster, if you will, because 8, 9, 10,000 full self-driving today off what I'm gonna tell you right now. Invest that in Tesla stock and you'll get a higher return.
Yeah, right, exactly. You'd have much better success buying the stock than FSD.
Absolutely.
At this point.
So speaking of, you're saying going back to profitability, what were you going to say about that?
I was going to say that I think I agree with Nick that this argument that we can't do the standard range Model Y because the range would be under 250, I claim BS on that. I think they're just looking at the spec sheets and their financials and saying, look, we could release that, but the margins would just be so insanely thin that it wouldn't look good for the company. The earnings calls wouldn't be as happy. Our production would be bottlenecked because probably everyone would buy it. Everyone would want that one. And I think they know that. I agree with Tesla that demand is not an issue. Elon brought that up and reiterated. Even with the pandemic, they're not worried about demand. I agree with that. I don't think the people in the market for Teslas were hurt that substantially by that. That wasn't the market that was impacted by 1 or 2 months without work.
Sure.
I think this is a different market of people that usually take a year or so to think about buying a car like that. They kind of have to get into a certain financial position in life before they're ready to make that big a commitment. And I don't think they're worried about demand, and lowering prices in introducing such a low-cost version would just overwhelm them, and it would overwhelm them with unhealthy profits. And it's not that it's corporate greed; it's for the sake of the company. You know, it's that same mentality the Roadster had when they first launched that. Is like we're pricing this car high because we're prepping for expansion. We want to use that money on a cheaper car, and then we're going to use that money on a cheaper car, and not in the same linear sense, but in the same in the same logical sense. I think they're still in that phase of we need healthy profits now, so we can dump that money into the rest of the gigafactories we want to make. In a sense, the Model 3 and Y are paying for the Cybertruck to change the world, and that's kind of their next step. So they've kind of moved away from making it cheaper, and I think that has a lot to do with them realizing that they've kind of maxed out what the Earth is capable of producing battery-wise, you know, at a time in a day. How much batteries can we make? So they're realizing, okay, we got to make the best with what we have with our current supply chains and our manufacturing techniques. So we're going to spread ourselves across different sectors of the market. They're happy with the Model 3 pricing because average car price of a new vehicle sold in the U.S. today, I think, is around $38,000. So factor in fuel cost savings, and Tesla feels on par. They feel like their vehicles are average priced on the low end. And once you factor in cost savings, they're actually pretty reasonable. So I think the range thing is made up, but part of me wonders if Elon wanted range to be better or further along now than they originally thought. And I think it's good. Like when I told my wife about the range thing, she was like, well, I agree with Elon on the sense that, yeah, like 250 is too low, or 300 should be considered the norm. like every time I talk to my wife about the range of EVs and stuff, she's always like, I think standard should be 350 and long range should be 500 or something like that. So it's the same as gas cars. And I'm always like, well, it's kind of hard to do that, Hunt. They wish they could, but they gotta they gotta work with the current science of batteries and cell.
Yeah.
But I agree with her in the sense of like, ideally, yes, that would be amazing if 300 was the norm. That was the default, and then it paid extra to go even further. And I think Elon wants that, but they're trying to make it make sense on paper, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see that they want to go forward with the rear-wheel drive Model Y to help affordability, but have really good range. I was not expecting that. That was kind of a complete 180 on my expectations for the future of the Model Y. But it's interesting to see them take that direction of, you know what? Actually, let's not focus too much on making the car cheap. We just want to make it good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't see all the numbers behind the scenes, but I'm in favor of lower range EVs for those who need them, because I'm in favor of options. If you want to make your 500-mile tri-motor, go ahead. But if there's some of us who are driving 5 miles a day, but we still want the tech and we still want the safety, why not make a 200-mile?
I think it goes back to what you said
cheap.
a long time ago, is that it's just too much overlap, and it in a sense that it's going to cannibalize sales on one or the other. It voids out. You don't want to go to the point where you're going to have a surplus of inventory parts on maybe the Model 3 if they did that. Because I think on paper, if you look at it, all things considering, like I think the Model Y is in every sense a better vehicle than the Model 3 for most things.
Pretty much.
And that's problematic for the Model 3 then, unless you make the Model 3 cheaper. It's like, hey, smaller roof, no power back, power hatchback, no hatchback, lower to the ground, and chrome. That's it.
Yeah, the chrome trim.
Right. Chrome.
No heat pump.
No heat. Right. So do it's cheaper, significantly cheaper, and these are the little trade-offs for it, and that makes the Model 3 to me still a very enticing product. I love my Model 3, and not just because of the customization I did to it. Even if I had it completely chrome with the black paint, you're not going to see me complain. I only care about the interior. I care about the minimalistic design, and I care about the software that keeps changing the UI, giving me a new experience, and I care about quality. And for all that, check. The outside, does it look cool? If it didn't have the wrap, yeah, sure. I mean, it's a Tesla. I care more about what am I spending.
Right.
Most of your experience will be in the car. Outside is more just for sex appeal, and it's supposed to be part of the sexy lineup.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. There it is. Now it's cheaper. Now it's enticing. Model Y, I just don't think it can afford to be cheaper without cannibalizing the sales of the Model 3. And if they take the Apple approach where it's like, well, we only have one bottom line number, so we really don't care if it takes away from the iPod experience or what have you. If they do it like that, sure, but I don't think it's an apples and apples comparison. So, pun intended, apples to apples, talking about the company. But I feel like they need to have some type of differentiating factor. The Model Y is the perfect in between the 3 and the X, even in price. And that's where it serves to exist. And I'm okay with that. I don't know if I'm not saying I agree with it. I understand maybe why they don't want to make it cheaper, and if they have to justify range or whatever the case may be, then sure, there's some wordsmithing happening here to kind of make some justifications. But I think overall it's because they want the Model 3 to still perform well on paper when they sell it.
I get the logic, and if this is not the true reason, but it's the reason Elon is giving, he's a genius. That's a genius move, because you can't really get mad at someone for saying, no, the range should be better, especially in the EV world. Everyone's going to be like,
how dare you?
well, yeah, it should be. So to try to push to make EVs go further is good for the industry. It's probably good for, it could be Tesla in the mindset of like, our owners sell the cars. It's our customers that are advertising for us. So it's in our best interest to sell our consumers and our owners the best possible car so that they recommend them. Because I could kind of understand the argument from a marketing standpoint of, okay, here's something bad that could happen. What if we introduce the standard range Model Y, $41,000, and the range is what they originally said it was going to be, $230,000. A bunch of people are like, cool, that's really cheap. I'll get that one. Model Y's got all the features I like, and it's affordable. I'll buy that one. So they all buy it, and now everyone's unhappy with the range because it doesn't go that far.
Right.
And they use the AC, or the different driving habits result in worse range. So now you have a huge number of people driving around this vehicle, and they're all saying, it's okay, but it doesn't go that far. And that's your advertising now, because Tesla doesn't have much control over what their owners say. So you end up with this huge demographic of people saying, it's got a short range, electric cars, they can't go that far. So maybe to control the narrative, Tesla is hoping to flood the market basically with long-range vehicles so that that stigma doesn't stick around. So that someone in your social circle buys a Model Y, shows it to all their friends. How far does it go? 320 miles, 330, something like that. Everyone's like, wow, that's pretty far. That's pretty good. Instead of flooding the market with, how far does it go? 230, usually less. Ooh. That's not very far. For a $40,000 car, it can barely break 200. It kind of sends the wrong message out there. So I don't know exactly the mentality behind it, but I will just say it was very unexpected. That I was not anticipating that to happen. Seeing that the tweets alluded to Elon saying the long-range single motor could be $45,000, how do you think that would impact the Model 3, knowing that currently the cheapest long range is $47,000? Could you imagine a lot of cannibalization in there, or perhaps the revival of the single motor Model 3?
Ooh, that would be nice. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I wouldn't mind either. I was going to say, maybe it's more expensive than the standard range plus, and they decide to axe the standard range. But
I don't think it would cannibalize, because some people prefer all-wheel drive, myself included, because you just have that torque that just feels so... Woo! It just, I don't know, it does something.
For sure. There's a market for the dual motor. I just think that there's also a much larger market that doesn't care. Maybe I'm overestimating.
I was in the market.
But that's my guess.
If you remember, I was in the market for the long-range single-motor Model 3 when they still had that configuration, because it was the longest range.
Yeah.
Longest range, and I only cared about the range, and it was the best bang for the buck.
That's what I would get, yeah.
I was upset when that went away, but people, things happen for a reason. I don't mind all-wheel drive. I like it, but I was always...
I don't think anyone hates it. They just, if they had the option to save the money...
If I have the option to save the money and go further, I will take range over anything else. Range over performance every day of the week. Because...
And I think most people are that way.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, evidently, I guess
there's some markets.
People got mad at me about that $2,000 upgrade for the performance boost, and they're like, "No."
Yeah.
So maybe not. I think I'm starting to think that my channel's attracting these enthusiasts, and all they like to do is argue. It doesn't belong in a garage. You should get the boost, and da da da. Says the people who don't probably own the vehicle. But I would say, I would like to think that more people would be in line of getting single motor or rear wheel drive long range for the longest range possible for the best bang for your buck. Just makes sense to me on paper, because when it comes to performance, I'm not going to be pushing it to its limits like that. I just need to get from A to B, and I don't want to.
People aren't adopting EVs because they're really fast. That helps, but it's not the reason. It's because they're able to fill in what our gas cars used to do better and better than before. So I think, especially in warmer climates where people aren't as worried about snow, you would absolutely see a huge uptick if it's true that they are going to launch this $45K Model Y that can go, Elon said longer than the current Model Y, and he said it would be way over 300. My guess, because before the software update that came out that updated the Model 3's range, the difference between dual motor and single for the long range pack was 310 versus 325. There was a 15-mile difference with that without that motor. If they applied that to the Model Y, you'd be easily hitting 330. If you had a 330-mile range Model Y with the hatchback and the heat pump and the glass roof, and it was $2,000 cheaper than the Model 3 that didn't go as far,
Yeah.
I would imagine way more people going with the Y unless
Sure.
they do some type of drastic updated internal redesign to the 3. Not external, but the rear unibody casting process, if they simplified that, added some of the techniques they learned from the Y, maybe they get the long range 3 price lower. But I just see that one selling like hotcakes, basically.
I
think
agree.
everyone would go for that one.
I would want to go for that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's an insane deal. I can't think of another EV that would be able to beat that. Can you imagine a 45K 330-mile range? Like, I can't think of any other.
No, because like
Tesla,
I think
let alone
out the
EV.
door, my 315 or 320, whatever it was before, out the door was 49, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was before applying full self-driving or the wrap and all the extra.
Yeah.
Just out the door base. I think mine was 49.9. I think I don't remember now, but cheaper than that. And that, like, I mean, like you said, like what we're
Worse
saying,
performance, but who
but
cares?
I know. I mean, if you're going for performance, you're not going to get a Model Y in the first place. I don't think.
Yeah, or you wouldn't be getting the cheapest one. If you want performance, get
if you
the
want performance,
model.
then you're going to get the performance model, the one that's in its name.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to get performance for
this
performance.
isn't for that market.
Yeah, you're going to get the special trim wheels, or you want the Roadster, or I mean, if all things considered, you're not. If you're buying the cheapest one, or not the cheapest, but if you're getting the most value, you know what you're buying. You're not going to complain about the performance because it's like, that's not what I wanted. And that's exactly the boat like I'm in, or I was in, at making the decision. I think everybody has that. I mean, Tesla could not have made it simpler by saying, do you want long range or do you want performance? You can't have both. Oh, okay.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you get a good amount of with either. You're just prioritizing one over the other. Even the single motor Model 3s and Model Ys, I'm sure, will be easily able to smoke any other car in its category when it comes to acceleration. So they're not the
amount of cars
slow.
that try to race me on the freeway is, and I look at them and they're just like,
yeah,
and then they go, and I'm just looking at them. I'm like, 1, 2, and I just I punch it. I will only do that if I'm alone in the car because she doesn't like it.
Chemistry's on your side. Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, go, and then I punch it, and then people like, all right, yeah, that was fun. But I don't like to do the racing. You know what's funny? A cop once watched me kind of like pseudo race on the freeway like that, and he just. I remember like him eventually driving next to me, and he was just like,
He nodded.
He nodded. He liked it.
Okay.
And I did one of these like. I was like, thank you. It was a quick one. This is back when I think I was pushing like over 85 or whatever, like on average.
Oh, wow.
This is when the car was still new, and I just like.
Yeah,
and I shot it real quick, but it was very quick. Like one car tried to like it was enticing me, trying to challenge me. So I'm just like, I looked at him, I was like, okay, and I just launched it without them even giving a chance to rev up or whatever. And I shot so quick, and then I stopped, and I think I pushed 85, 90, and then I'm just driving, just minding my own, and about a minute later, if a cop drives up next to me, letting me know that he's watching me, like he drives, and then first he speeds up, and then he just drives with me, and so I'm just like, and then he just like, and then he just carried on. Yeah, I was like, all right, well, the roads were they're pretty empty, and I wasn't doing anything stupid, but I probably wouldn't do it again now. I've been so More, I baby the car. After the accident, well, after the bump, the scratch, I was like, nah, you know what? This ain't that car for me. Yeah, this ain't the car that I want to, bully people around for because I really like this car. So I baby it now. That thing is, I love it more than my own wife.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
We can't go that far.
She would tell you. She would say that. She would be like, he loves it. He loves it more than me. She would say that.
Hey, we swore we would come back to it. So before I forget, do you think the single motor Cybertruck is actually going to come out, or are they going to axe it?
Ooh, you're right. I think the single motor will come, and I think it's going to be more expensive.
So, okay, I think I agree with you, because my answer is going to be, I think they're going to do a single motor, but it won't be a short range. It's going to be the same battery pack as the dual motor. Basically, I'm saying they're going to do the same thing that they did with the Model Y. They're going to have long range dual, long range single, and performance with the tri-motor setup. That's my guess, is because they're going to say, no, 250-mile range for a pickup isn't good enough.
Right.
So it's going to end up costing more like 46 or 47 grand, but it'll go way over 300 miles, and you won't have that much. Obviously, a lot of people, I think, are going to see this Cybertruck single motor as pointless because I need the four-wheel traction. I need that, pickup truck off-roading capability. But there's a huge number of people that don't care about their truck's off-roading capability. Like, my dad drives a pickup truck, and he has never taken that thing anywhere close to off-road. It's just for, it's got a bed. I can load stuff into it. I can move stuff around. That's it. I don't need the insane traction control, that kind of thing. Drives it around California. It's not a price.
But Drew, it needs to have
For you, maybe they have a model for those people. I just mean I still think there will be 3 variants. I just don't think that the 250-mile single motor will be a thing. I don't expect the $40,000 Cybertruck to exist.
I think the cheapest one will be
47, 46.
Yeah. I think they'll justify it by listen, battery has improved, all these things has improved. You're locked in at the full self-driving price back then. They'll be a wordsmith with that and say, here's why it's now going to be this amount, because in actuality you're saving money by and they'll really we actually cut the price by $5,000 because if you look at the potential savings, blah 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 blah.
Because we said the 300-mile Cybertruck would be $50K. Now we're letting you go over 300 miles for under $50K. So we're actually helping you out here in reality.
We're doing you a favor, yeah. Because I think you're right.
That's how they'll treat it.
They're in trouble if they didn't do that. Just you're making a product that is you're not gonna make much profit off of it.
I don't think so, and I think that maybe it has something to do with battery ramping. Like when they unveiled the Cybertruck, they thought batteries were going to be a certain price by the time they bring it to market, and now plans may have changed. Because, why would they unveil the Cybertruck with 250-mile range if Elon was later going to say 250 is not good enough, So why would they go as far? I think if they could do the Cybertruck event again, first of all, they would save the durability test for the end. Second of all, they would probably not announce a 40K 250-mile version. I think they would have rethought it a little bit. Yeah, if they could do it again.
And now people are locked in with that little price. But I mean, it's the locked in price. I don't think it's a binding contract.
I don't think so. Not if it's fully refundable.
Yeah, I don't think
you can get that money back whenever you want.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a legally. I don't think anything about it is binding in the sense that, especially like you said, it's refundable. But I also think that what I remember with the reservation, there was nothing like this is the one you're locking. I don't know. I just don't.
It felt very vague. It was not a very official. The reservation process doesn't even ask you where you live. It doesn't ask you where you are in the world. It doesn't ask you. It's just a literal, just $100 hold is all it is.
And if you choose not to go forward with the purchase of the vehicle, then you'll get refunded your $100, and then there you go.
Yeah. So it is a little different though, because I mean, them canceling the standard range Model Y is pretty easy because they never took orders for it. When they announced it, they said it would eventually get there. But when they launched the Model Y configurator on the website, the long-range rear-wheel drive was the cheapest one. And it was $48K, which I also find interesting because it's like, so now the actual thing's going to be cheaper, but they're not going to do the standard range. So it's like they never accepted orders for standard range Model Y, which makes it, easier for them to say, you know what, we're not going to do it because they never took money accepting, yes, we can deliver that. Cybertruck, they can't say the same thing. Now they're accepting money saying, hey, end of 2022, we can get you a 250-mile Cybertruck for $40K. And if they decide to back out, I don't know. I think they might they'll definitely get backlash, I'd say. I think they would get criticism. I don't know if they'd have a legal issue with it, but it would not be a good look. Let's just put it that way. People would be mad.
I think what they'll do is they'll refund. If they have to pull out, they'll just refund the money, which is maybe problematic unless the single motor wasn't the most reservation. But people, like you said, people
Samsung did the same thing for me.
That's true. That's very true.
The Galaxy Fold, and I paid for the whole thing.
Hey, at least you got a solid state drive out of it.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Maybe Tesla will have to say we're sorry somehow. Maybe it's a good idea to reserve the cheapest Cybertruck right now. You might get something out of it when they cancel it.
$100 will give you
they'll be like, here's $100 in gift card credit at the Tesla store or something.
Here's this
like,
sexy
sorry.
short shorts or something.
Yeah, have some short shorts, something like that. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to handle it, but
maybe if they did cancel it, the $100 credit would go towards if you're an owner already, maybe like Supercharge or something, or maybe
there you go.
Put it off towards hey, $100 off your next purchase with Tesla, whatever it may be. You want a walk connector, you want to put the booster, the acceleration boost on there. Whatever.
Oh yeah, the software pack. Yeah, something like
maybe
that.
Maybe they can still allocate that money somehow, or maybe they'll just refund it, or maybe we're wrong and they'll just commit and give us the $40,000 model.
Maybe it'll be off menu or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting because it's like how far out, how much thought do you think they put into it to go back and go, I wish I could have done things differently. Like the demo, you couldn't control the demo. Obviously, they would have done that differently, but divulging certain information, like I should have not said that. I wonder how much insight was provided prior to leading up to that, because it could be an off menu, and it could be a really bad, $40,000 with your locked in price of full self driving, right? All that could be the worst of the worst. Like, well, this one doesn't have power seating, or this one doesn't have whatever.
Partial premium interior.
Which means interior.
Screw you interior.
No cover for the bed when you want to lock your stuff up.
Oh yeah, they take the vault out or something. Yeah, there you go. Here's what they could do.
Yeah, they'll get their money off of it.
They'll make the single motor long range option, and it'll just be called, single motor long range. It goes over 300 miles or whatever. The $40K Cybertruck is an off-menu version that's just a software-locked version of that truck that limits the range of the battery to be, 280 or 260 or something, even though the battery pack's much larger. And they'll be like, 40K Cybertruck, it kind of exists, but you don't want that one.
Yeah.
You really don't. And they're going to let you, via in-app purchase, buy the rest of that range back if you want. That's how they justify it. But it'll be really hard to find. You'll have to, you got to call the showroom after you order it. You're like, hey, can you label that one as standard? And they're like, oh, okay, let me reset it here. Yeah. And, they got to change everything. Just like the standard range off-menu Model 3. They'll make it really, really hard to find, but it technically exists. And I could see that happening.
And nobody gets sued.
Yeah, no one gets sued. They'll be like, yeah, we delivered it. Kind of. It exists.
Once.
It's out there. Yeah. Once on occasion it exists. But seeing Elon say that they want like 300 miles to be the standard, do you think they will keep the standard range Model 3 around, or is that on the cutting board?
Ooh. I I think I've said this before. I would like them to simplify the naming lineup and then just
Me too.
add the proper increasements to the battery. That standard range Model 3 is standard range plus, but call it standard range, 300 plus mile battery. No certain interior stuff like all that stuff can be removed, and just have standard range, long range, performance, and upgrade those 3 tiers for every model in the Cybertruck. Upgrade all 3 of those as the times call for it: the 2020, the 2021, 2022, and the 2022 version is the one that has over 350, and the 2025 has over 5, and like do it as such for that, and still keep the name the same, just so it doesn't make it complicated. I don't want to remember. I got the Model S 70D. It's
too complicated.
What? Yeah,
I agree. I hate that SR Plus thing too. That annoys me.
They did that to cover their butts about the whole like, ooh, this is too cheap, So they did what they had to do for that.
Right.
But I don't kill it. Just kill it. Kill the Plus. You don't need no Plus. This is an Apple. There's no iPhone Plus, Max Pro. Just standard range, long range, performance. It's clean. I love it. Do that.
I like the simplicity of it. Do you want 1 motor, 2 motors, or to go fast?
That's it.
Those are the 3 tiers.
One. Do you want 1, 2, or 3? Do you want vroom vroom, long vroom, or just vroom?
Yeah. Except they
nice.
don't vroom. They just
They just go every time. Chewy, punch us into light speed. I love it.
I will still stand my ground, though. I think we're going to fight to the end on this one, that Cybertruck deliveries will begin into next year. I'm still betting on that. Because...
Yeah, and you think it's the dual motor?
It'll be the dual motor. I'm almost 100% certain with that, because it's not too crazy, but it's not too cheap. So it's like they're happy. Like, I bet of all the Cybertruck specs they gave us, the middle one was the one they actually could do. The other ones, they were like, theoretically, we could do that. But we'll see how we get when we're...
Too expensive.
That's the only one the prototype...
Not expensive enough.
Yeah, right. Technically, the dual motor Cybertruck is the only one that exists today.
Technically.
The tri-motor is all on paper.
So what about the tri-motor demo that they used to tow the Ford truck?
That was the dual. That was still dual.
Ooh.
So that wasn't even... it's not even my final form. Can go further. But if they announced Giga Berlin in November of 2019, here we are, structures going up July, and I think they're on track for vehicles to come out of the factory by May.
Yeah.
So that's around a 17, 18-month turnaround time between announcement and delivery. And the whole concrete section that they're building that has the roof and the walls being put up and all that, that's all the paint shop.
Yeah.
All right? Cybertruck gets to skip all that. They get to bypass the whole paint shop part of the process. And they don't have the panel stamping process that the Model Y has. I think it's intentionally built to be cheap and easy to make, and it's pretty much just batteries, motor, stuff it inside this tin can, and throw it out in the market.
But what about side mirrors, windshields, and all that other stuff?
We'll see.
Windshield wipers. I mean,
I think they'll be on the production model. I think we'll see changes.
I think legally you need to have windshield wipers.
Legally, you need windshield wipers. I got so many comments on that video. They have this patent for an air cannon that can shoot off anything that gets on the way. It doesn't matter. It's not legal. They have some law that they have some patent on these lasers that'll zap off anything. Or it's hydrophobic coating so the water just falls up. That's all great. It's not legal, folks. They need windshield wipers on the thing. And I do not have faith in the U.S. auto legal department that they're going to change all these laws within the next 18 months. I haven't seen them move on these type of legal things that quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm betting the production model Cybertruck will have side view mirrors. It will have windshield wipers. How they implement them, they could get really creative. My idea is that they're going to be buried within the frunk, and that when it rains, the frunk on the back end, the side of the frunk that touches the windshield, will lift up a bit, and the wipers come out of that. That way, when it's not raining, they recede into the frunk and close, and it will look like the prototype does when it's not raining, and just when it is raining, they'll pop out and slide around. And the side view mirrors, the driver is allowed to remove legally, but currently the automaker can't deliver them without them. So they'll
people
put
do it
them
on their Jeeps all the time, like those open door Jeeps. Some of Jeeps don't even have doors.
Yeah, right. I think Tesla will make it real easy to remove, but do expect some weird looking triangular side mirror on the production model. I think it will. I don't expect the laws to change. Also, I know you really like that steering wheel, but it's not legal.
I know.
They can't keep that.
I know. Trust me, Drew. Everybody, next to the whole truck in the garage thing, everyone's talking about the steering wheel, and I'm like, I know. I'm just saying I like it. As a concept, I like it.
Yeah. I like it too. And you can probably modify it to make it look like the prototype.
Sure.
But fundamentally, the whole design will look pretty dang close to the prototype. There will just be little tweaks here and there.
I don't like the white cabin interior anymore because it doesn't look marble. It's just that plain white. I don't think it goes.
Yeah, I don't know.
With it, it looks better stealth.
They might change that.
Make it better. Don't give it the wood paneling because wood does not complement that steel.
Doesn't go in. No.
Yeah, no, yeah. Look at all this stainless steel and this little piece of wood. That just feels.
I don't know
weird.
what they're planning for the interior. I imagine that's one of the last things they work on. Is like, okay, we need this big box rectangle to stuff in there. That shows up in the last of the process of putting the car together. But I do think that marble, not the material, but the texture, the look of marble goes with that design better than like a felt or a wood. Or just a fake leather. Anything they did in the 3 and Y, it works for those cars. It wouldn't work for the Cybertruck. It just doesn't. It would. A marble is like a hard looking, tough looking. It goes with the aesthetic. So I hope basically the prototype interior is what they bring to the real thing because I like that look. I think it looks nice.
Yeah.
And maybe they won't have a white interior additional upgrade because I think the beauty of the Cybertruck's design is there's basically no customization on Tesla's end. You can make it whatever you want, but on Tesla's end, they're like, these are the standard wheels. This is the standard size, standard seating. Everything's just easier for them to build and mass produce by having as little.
It's just what battery range do you want? What motor do you want? That's it.
Everything else they can just unify, make it as simple. Just like the Model Y shared so much in common with the 3. There's like. Yeah, we can just move these parts over from this assembly line to this assembly line.
We're gonna probably fight till the end because I think it's gonna get pushed. I feel like some of that stuff is.
Give me a month.
Ooh.
First delivery month. I believe you said 2022, right?
I did say 2022.
You're pretty confident 2022, but which month of 2022?
Oh man. First quarter.
I want to see how far off we're expecting.
I would say first quarter.
First quarter? So we're not far off in our prediction.
Well, my thing is that the first earnings call would look good if they're delivering.
Because Q1 is seasonably weak anyway, so if they do their first deliveries, then it
I feel I feel like it looks good.
Model Y deliveries were Q1 as well, so.
Right, and so I'm playing to the rhythm of that beat of what's happening this year. I mean. You want to see me tempt fate? It can't get any worse than this. So now that we have the worst, possible conditions and seeing how they're doing, now let's see what it looks like when things kind of get back to a certain, new normal. And I want to know. I think it just looks good if they deliver, if they start for the first quarter of 2022 and be, hey, Cybertruck, it's a thing. Have you heard about it? And
so it's just our human brains acting weird. Like there's this big difference between 2021 and 2022, when in actuality, our predictions are about 30 days off.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'm gonna say I think I am playing to their quarterly meetings, not the calendar of it, and so. It just looks better in execution that our first quarter of the new year is we got a Cybertruck.
I would say it looks better to be on time.
I agree.
Hey, we reached our expected timeline.
I agree, but sometimes they just, but they manipulate those because if they're not late, they manipulate it by saying like, oh, well, technically we did deliver the first Model Y. Technically, we do have a $30,000 model. When you have to say technically,
I'm counting on technically. I'm counting on December 31st, them handing one over to MKBHD and saying, there, Cybertruck deliveries.
We technically announced at the end of November, like we said, technically there was a Cybertruck announcement at the end of November. Technically, end of the year, yeah.
I'm just super excited to see the prototype sightings, like the Model Y. Remember how there was like 6 months of Model Y sightings before the first deliveries?
I do.
We're going to get Cybertruck sightings before the deliveries, and it's going to be the weirdest thing, seeing people driving them around. Oh, yeah. People, like, Model Y takes a trained eye, but the Cybertruck everybody's going to be filming that thing when they see it. I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's that? It'll be so weird.
We have to get on the Cybertruck hype train while it still makes us, relevant in the news, and we have to cover as much about it as possible. Yeah. This is
the reason both of us have EV channels, is because of the Cybertruck.
And the Cybertruck is the most talked about. Yeah, absolutely, because it's the most controversial talked about thing. Love it, hate it. What you can't do is ignore it, because they move things. They move us forward. The squares and the round and the square pegs. Here's to the crazy ones. I'm trying to do the Think Different campaign.
The square trucks and the round lineups.
You can agree with them, hate them, vilify, or whatever. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they move things. Think different. That's right. Instead of the Apple logo, it's the Tesla T.
Yeah, think different.
Hey, really quick before we go, shout out to Drew for recommending changing the Model T, because it does look so much cleaner on my thing now, so I appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome.
Rebranding.
And thank you for offering me 15% commissions on the channel.
Wait a minute. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye. Have a good week.
Bye.
See you together next week.
Next week. Bye-bye.